was brilliant. I mean, truly a brilliant man.
He ran this town. He was the guy.
Harvey Weinstein was the king of Hollywood, a mogul with 81 Oscars to his name.
The Harvey I knew was brilliant. I mean, truly a brilliant man.
He ran this town. He was the guy.
But we'll show you what actually happened behind his locked office door.
The game was about power. It was about making you capitulate, making you give in. Forcing seduction on you.
And speak to those who say they paid an awful price for being in Weinstein's world.
He ruined lives. He crushed dreams.
I still am scared of him. He is a master predator.
Now Hollywood's dirty secret is out in the open.
We knew. Everybody knew. Everybody knew.
And the reckoning isn't over.
It's important for other men to know, you want to act this way, then you're going to lose everything.
Mr. Weinstein, Hannah Thomas Peter from Sky News. I wonder, could you tell me, do you believe all of those women are lying? Do you believe they're lying, sir?
Thank you very much.
Are you ashamed? Any messages for the women?
Harvey Weinstein has refused all of our requests for an interview, so we tracked him down on the street. He still wouldn't talk, but the women who say he altered their lives forever will. To try and understand what happened, we listened to stories like Rose McGowan's, who was one of the first celebrities to accuse him of sexual assault. It was 1997, and she was at the Sundance Film Festival, already a star in the making. Weinstein invited her to his hotel room, where, she says, he raped her.
Skilled predators take a lion. They look for the weakest one in the pack, don't they? The one without the protection. Because there were actresses he didn't target because they had better representation or better people around them. Or there was something, they didn't have that crack, maybe. But he targeted an awful lot. And like a super predator, you know, with night vision goggles on, he saw what he needed to see, and he did what he needed to do. His whole world was set up to rape, to consume, to eat people's lives. He's a dastardly human.
I'd heard of the casting couch. I thought maybe that was like a rite of passage. And I felt like, if this is how other people make it, like it's really depressing and against everything that I believe in. But when you're in a more vulnerable position, you really don't have a choice, is what I felt happened. That he kind of made it seem like this was the only way that he would, and it's the only way that he would ever do it for anyone else. I felt like I said no, and he didn't even acknowledge it. I felt like I had to do it. So how is he about it? He was calm and collected. This was his, like, MO. He had a system to lure them up, ask for the massage, come out in the towel, robe. He was just acted like it was normal.
Give Weinstein what he wanted, or forfeit a dream. That's the choice Dawn Dunning says she had to make too. She's a costume designer now, but back in 2003, she was a young actress looking for her big break. She met Weinstein while she was working in a nightclub, and he said he could help. After several screen tests, she went to what she thought was a business meeting in a hotel suite.
When I got there, he opened the door and he was in an open robe. On the coffee table, he had 3 small stacks of paper. And he said, "These are contracts for my next 3 films. I will sign them today, but I want you to have a threesome with me and my assistant." I laughed. I thought he was joking. And when I started laughing, he got angry. And that's when I got scared. He started yelling at me, and he said, "You'll never make it in this business. This is how this industry works. This is how," he named 3 actresses. "This is how they got to where they are." He went on, and then at that point, the door was pretty close behind me, and I just turned and went for the door. I could still hear him yelling.
The more powerful he got, the more blatant the alleged behaviour. It was an open secret in Hollywood. But even those who exercised caution say they were targets, like Louisette Geiss, who was invited to pitch a script at the Sundance Festival.
He said, well, why don't we reconvene in my office? Well, they turn hotel rooms into offices when you're at these festivals. That's just the norm. But I still felt a little hesitant, obviously. I knew that this was a huge opportunity, and I didn't want to give that opportunity up. But at the same time, I looked at him in the eye and I said, there's a camera right there, so I'll go up to your office and meet with you, but you're not allowed to touch me. And I said, you have to shake my hand.
Inside the room, Louisette says things changed.
He pulled me to his bathroom and we both stood in front of the mirror, and he's like, just watch me. He wanted me to watch him masturbate. And finally I just ripped my arm away, and he followed me out of the room saying, look, I can give you a 3-picture deal. I can greenlight your film. Like, this is ridiculous. This is all you have to do. Everybody does it. There's lots of other women who have done this. Personally, I think he enjoyed the switch, which is then he comes out, he's naked, it's a whole different tone, the energy's different, it's much more aggressive and angry, and he watches us, like almost like the prey, like, okay, now what are you gonna do? I think he loved the power struggle. I think he loved to watch in our faces the fear. That's what I truly believe.
But in this case, the legal argument was...
Weinstein apparently cast his net wide. Lauren Sivan was a young reporter when she met him at a dinner party in a restaurant he part-owned. He offered her a tour of the kitchen, and she followed him.
I realized that this was a bad situation, and I said, I'm going to go back upstairs. I saw the kitchen, I'm good. He leaned in to kiss me, and I said, I'm so sorry if I gave you the wrong impression, but I'm not interested. I'm dating someone, I'm going to go back upstairs. And at that point, he got kind of irritated, and he asked me, just stand there and be quiet. And I was a little shocked to hear that, because his tone changed dramatically, but he blocked my exit. And I thought to myself, what is he going to do? And that's when he just started masturbating in front of me, and I just stood there kind of frozen. I was 27, 28 when I had this encounter with him, and I just remember feeling stupid, feeling really dumb, standing there and watching this man, do what he was doing, and thinking to myself, how could I be so dumb? How could I think that he was really interested in me and what I had to say about news and history and world politics? He had a plan. He knew exactly how to get me down there, and just the callousness of it, like, just stand there and be quiet then, because this is going to happen whether you participate or not. That struck me as something that he's done before.
Sarah Ann Mass went to Weinstein's home to be interviewed for a job as his children's nanny. There, she says, he assaulted her.
I had sort of been warned by his assistants ahead of time that, he's a Hollywood guy, they're kind of different. But I never translated that to mean that he was going to, sexually assault me. During the whole incident, it was just shock and fear and discomfort, because, you're in a professional environment. It's certainly not something you're expecting. And he also had a huge anger outburst at his children. And so it was just like a very terrifying experience for me. And I remember really distinctly driving there. I remember the road I took and the exit and everything, and then I don't remember getting home.
I constantly felt trapped. He cornered me over and over again.
Every woman we talked to described the same feeling of being caught in Weinstein's web. Entrepreneur Melissa Thompson says he raped her after a business meeting.
I never had a choice. Like, it's Harvey's choice. And it's like Harvey is playing cards with a stacked deck. The outcomes are fixed. The women lose. I felt like, who would care if I said anything?
There is still a profound sense of loss over what might have been. Louise Godbold was a young woman when she had her own experience with Weinstein. Now she's a trauma specialist, a choice shaped by what happened to her.
Many of us are mourning the careers that we could have had. I think that's the number one thing that's being mourned. There are very many women who are saying that their careers could have been so much more illustrious had Harvey not set about destroying them.
When you have someone who is the most powerful man in Hollywood telling you this is how it works, I believe them, like that, was coming from the horse's mouth. I was like, okay, this is, not gonna work for me because I'm not willing, to go that far for it,
When you're kind of almost hunted and treated like a piece of meat, that does something to you. No woman at any stage of her life should be told that you have to do a sexual act in order to have a career. I'm sorry, but it's pretty basic.
Harvey Weinstein has always maintained that any sexual encounters were consensual. But his accusers say he preyed on vulnerable young women, unchecked, for nearly 3 decades. They want to know how and why it continued for so long. There are lots of reasons why no one stood up to Harvey Weinstein. One of them is that well before he was famous, he was known as a bully. In the summer of 1980, Paula Wojciech worked for Weinstein on his first film. It was a horror called The Burning. Paula was to become one of the earliest alleged victims of Weinstein's inappropriate behavior.
I didn't realize how upset I was until I got outside the door and I kind of started shaking and I broke down and started crying.
Later on set, Paula says Weinstein tracked her down to gloat about exposing himself.
He walked up behind me and said, "So, was it the high point of your internship to see me naked?" And I just said, "No, Harvey, frankly, you disgust me." And he laughed and he went. He had no other reason to be there except to torment me.
Former employees say it only got worse from there. Harvey and his brother Bob moved to New York City to run their film company, Miramax.
They were cruel, both of them. Harvey in particular, but Bob was right there with him.
Mark Lipsky was the head of marketing.
They couldn't help themselves. Every girl in the office cried. I don't know what the expense budget was for flowers, but lots of money was spent on, next day apologies and begging forgiveness. I think a lot of people who worked for them felt stuck.
Why don't you think anybody stopped him?
He's a big, scary guy. The people surrounding both of them, but Harvey in particular, were completely dependent on him and on the company for their careers. And they were scary guys.
But it wasn't just about fear. Weinstein was a force of nature, and people were drawn to him.
We all struggled trying to follow social norms around him, and he unfooted us all. And he was a very charismatic, confusing, powerful, frightening, exciting, fun too person.